The sworn-in Tinubu-Shetima government does not strictly comply with the Nigerian constitution as it were today. So it is not out of place for any objective mind to still call it unconstitutional. Mildly, one could say it is questionably constitutional. But then here's the big rejoinder to it. 9 out of 16 Nigerian leaders did not buy INEC forms. Yet they served their terms. One of them 9 years, General Gawan, President Babangida 8 years. Nothing could, they were not consistent with the then written constitution because the constitutions were suspended. The point I'm making is that you could be a president, you could be a head of state, you could be a leader, you could be a dictator. So long as you are allowed to remain there, and the big point here is that Tinubu was allowed and is allowed to remain there, despite the efforts of people like me. You remember my efforts. I called clearly for Tinubu Shetima not to be sworn in, and it was legal, it is legitimate up to now. Why? I gave my reasons. Then, did the Nigerian constitution have...
Hello my people, how una dey? Wahala Dey o, former Labour Party vice presidential candidate Yusuf Baba Ahmed didn't even hold back in his recent appearance on Arise TV. Now, what did he say? He came in swinging not just as President Tinubu, but also his administration and what he called the total collapse of leadership in Nigeria. Now, let's look at his video.
To everyone, only 20 days ago, there was Salah, so happy Salah. And I would just like to say a bit about the so-called most religious country in the world, but with very little faith.
I like that. That's a very interesting one, isn't it?
Yes. I want to say a bit about right from the very top, from God Almighty, because this is Easter, Salah just passed after Ramadan. We have the 99 attributes in Islam of God Almighty. I believe you have similar, and they all center around ability, capacity of our Creator to do. But then strangely, the Creator, able to do all and everything, he forbade injustice from himself, by himself, unto his creature. Now, the conclusion of my last chat with you was that next to what our Creator does with us is what authority does with us. Now, from number one, God Almighty is first and all. The next, what do you say at the next? Authority. Authority is now synonymous with injustice. So what a difference.
Well, let's take this
from the just to absolute injustice.
Well, let's take it systematically.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the last time you were on this program. Since we last spoke on this program, I notice you have not backed down from your maximalist demands of calling out the Tinubu government as illegitimate, even though there is absolutely no sign of any capitulation on their part, or for that matter, that anyone is taking that assessment seriously. So you essentially remain in a deadlock on that front, yet you insist that democracy ended in Nigeria on 29th May 2023, the day Mr. Tinubu was sworn in as president. Why do you maintain that position? And is it just chatter at the moment, given the fact that he is the legitimate president of Nigeria, or legitimately recognized as a president?
Thank you for that correction to yourself. Legitimately recognized. You see, a sworn-in government needs to be and must be consistent with the constitution of the country. And now, if I were to open the relevant sections to you that we have discussed before, they are at variance with the justice served on Nigeria. So with due respect to the justice system, it is valid to ask, did the custodians of the law do the lawful? And the answer is simply no. We do recognize that the courts have the power to do all and everything, but that all and everything must be justice. The sworn-in Tinubu-Shetima government does not strictly comply with the Nigerian constitution as it were today, so it is not out of place for any objective mind to still call it unconstitutional. Mildly, one could say it is questionably constitutional. But then here's the big rejoinder to it. 9 out of 16 Nigerian leaders did not buy INEC forms. Yet they served their terms. One of them 9 years, General Gowon, President Babangida 8 years. Nothing could, they were not consistent with the then written constitution because the constitutions were suspended. The point I'm making is that you could be a president, you could be a head of state, you could be a leader, you could be a dictator, so long as you're allowed to remain there. And the big point here is that Tinubu was allowed and is allowed to remain there, despite the efforts of people like me. You remember my efforts. I called clearly for Tinubu Shetima not to be sworn in, and it was legal, it is legitimate. Up to now. Why? I gave my reasons. Then, did the Nigerian constitution have an alternative to that? Yes, of course, very constitutional. Ahmed Lawal could have served to, I think, 8th or 9th of June. And at the point of electing a new Senate president, he acts out the balance of 90 days during which a second or rerun election was to be held because Tinubu Shetima did not satisfy the demands of the constitution to be sworn in. However, it was allowed. I tried to legitimately form what I called then the Constitutional Crisis Resolution Group. All we had to do was to take 3 documents, the Constitution, INEC results, and the options. Go to Washington, Brussels, London, Addis Ababa, on 29th, occupy Eagle Square. Tinubu will not be there today. And the beauty of stopping injustice is that it will not perpetrate itself. Bad leadership is a virus. What do viruses do? They create more, they become more and more and more. We should have stopped this before it happened, and legitimately so, constitutionally so, irrespective of the powers, the DSS, the police, you simply serve a notice. You see, the word democracy is still having a great deal to be understood. When you have a democracy, it means that at some point in time, the people will come out and be the arbiters themselves. Right now, Nigerian governments are governments because they have the army, they have the police and all those security forces surrounding and protecting them while they misrule. And the Nigerian people have no propensity to really take up their government. Well, that is the meaning of democracy, that behind the Nigerian army, there is the army of the Nigerian people, whom if you transgress their constitution, they will come out against it. Well, now, bad leadership has realized the incapacity of Nigerians to come together and protect their rights. That is why I told you that if you cannot practice democracy, for God's sake, democracy is not for you. There were the hunger protests about last year also. But when you have 1,000 people doing what 1 million people should do, they will be trampled. Just one more thing.
Because there are quite a lot of things we need to get to. I mean, I appreciate your sort of laying out your position there, but hopefully if we have time, we'll return to the issue of democracy. But let's discuss the political landscape in Nigeria today, because the fact is that President Tinubu is the president, and he's been president for the last 2 years. And this, looking at the state of the Republic, with just about a month to go before he marks 2 years in office, what do you see? How do you assess those last 2 years?
Well, complete disaster. And like I told you, they wouldn't stop the killings. They haven't stopped the killings. I didn't report it. You people reported the killings in Jos, and many and many and many before that. They will not stop the killings. They will not stop the stealing and the wasting of Nigeria's blessed resources.
So here is what is going on. The former vice presidential candidate of Labour Party, Yusuf Datti, spoke with intensity on what he called the Tinubu government. He criticized this government, and now he's saying that it's not just about the administration. He's saying that democracy in Nigeria died the day Tinubu was sworn in on May 29, 2023. Now he criticized Tinubu's administration and said that the administration is illegitimate. This government is not just unconstitutional. He also said that it's just a continuation of injustice. He called that the failure of leadership, the unchecked corruption, and the collapse of the rule of law. Now he took aim at some ministers who he said that they are too rich and too powerful to be held accountable for their actions. And now he mentioned that some of them even said, let the whole place burn, and they were not held accountable for such statements. Now he is criticizing the Tinubu administration and government, saying that there are a lot of things going on in the country, but they are not being addressed. The corruption just go unpunished, and the rule of law is just collapsing day by day. And when asked about the future, he didn't mince words. He said that Tinubu should throw in the towel in 2027, that Nigerians are ready to reclaim democracy, that they are ready to take charge of their lives and reclaim democracy, that the time for bad leadership is running out. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.